Yo, what up, everyone? Welcome back to Just a Minute. This is episode number 20 of Just a Minute podcast. Man, I'm your HoopSeen host, Austin Smith. And as always, I'm joined by our editor-in-chief here at HoopSeen.com, Justin Young. And JY, this is episode number 20. Man, I feel great about that. That sounds legit, bro.
Yeah, like seasoned veterans now, man.
Always, man. We rocking and rolling. Well, look, let's not keep the people waiting. As you all know, in just a minute, man, we dive into some of the latest and greatest in grassroots basketball, and we're bringing you this week's, I guess you could say, buckload of content. So, JY, let's go right ahead and talk about some commitments of the week. I think the most notable one for everyone is Shaedon Sharpe to Kentucky. It was all over social media. I want you to dive into him for a second, and then let's also talk about what's next for Kentucky as a program.
Yeah, for sure. The nation's number one player, really North America's number one prospect, is off the board. The Ontario, Canada native here at Dream City Christian in Metro Phoenix is off the board. John Calipari and his crew snatched up the top prospect, to me, the number one NBA prospect that we have in prep basketball. We've seen so many guys go to the pro levels, whether it's overtime or G League. We finally got a high-level guy. And you know what? Wait a second. We saw him in college. And, you know, with all the news, the Memphis guy with Amari Bailey and Jalen Duren, Kentucky had to step up and say, hey, wait a second, don't forget about us here at the Big Blue Nation. We can go get some big-time blue-chip guys as well. And Shaedon Sharpe, I mean, what a prospect he is. If you watch this show, if you've read any of our content, you don't have to be a genius to think of the number one player in the country. That comes with a lot of accolades that come behind that. We've talked about him ad nauseum here on the show. But he's the most dynamic athlete that there is in the class, a guy that continues to get better, an absolute freak of a game-changing type of athlete. And when you think about the way Kentucky plays, you think about the style that John Calipari likes to run, you think about the speed in which they operate, and you pair him with Sky Clark, you've got two of the most exciting guys there is in high school hoops. And one's coming from Dream City Christian out here on the West Coast, playing a dynamic schedule. You've got Sky Clark coming in from IMG, two programs that we've seen guys that have been well prepared in order to step into the stars role. In Kentucky, I think even after the season they had last year, interested to see what happens this year. But this is more like the type of player that we've seen Kentucky land. Yeah. There's a wow factor. There's a swagger. There is a dynamic to each of these guys, particularly with Shaedon, that we've seen so many Kentucky guys over the years. Like, he's just got a wow factor, man. Just a wow factor. And if you're a Kentucky fan, you are so fired up to get back into the Rupp Arena and to see a guy like him just attacking the rims. Dynamic dude. Yeah,
I'm with you, Jay. I think it's a great fit. I was reading online as well that this is Coach Cal's first number one recruit since 2012 with Nerlens Noel. And you got to think with Kentucky, you do expect them to get those, top five guys in the recruiting class. But we've been hearing a lot about these guys deciding to go to overtime elite. We've been hearing about the G League. So, Shaedon's decision to go to Kentucky, it does spark a lot of excitement, not only with his playing style, but getting Kentucky fans back to, I guess, what they're accustomed to in the recruiting process.
Well, take it a step further, too. You think about what John Calipari does with this type of player, a high-level, dynamic guy, with regards to the NBA. Yeah. Like John Calipari, one thing I love about what he is, he's super transparent. I want to get you to the league. I want you to be the number one pick. How do we develop you to become that guy? And I know a lot of NBA guys are excited about Shaedon's decision to go to Kentucky with regards of that filter of how does he become a better pro prospect. Mm-hmm. I'm really interested to see what the next 24 months look like for him and for his growth as a prospect. I kind of love it. I love when college basketball, it needs star power. It has to have it. And we really are seeing a big right turn with a lot of players. Now, I think what we have to figure out now, there may be 30 guys per year. Okay, that's 1/3 roughly of the top 100 players are not going to play college basketball. Yeah, that's more than the one and done era. Right. I mean, think about that. Or the straight from preps to pros era. So when you take 30% out of the incoming, talent level, particularly the high level guys, like I like Shaedon Sharpe, that's a significant talent gap between Kentucky and the rest of the group. So interested to see how that plays itself out as we're in this new realm of what college basketball looks like. So significant, obviously, for thousands of reasons when the nation's number one player commits to a school. And of course, Kentucky, no stranger to landing guys at the very top of the rankings.
Man, for sure. J.Y., one last thing on that segment, talking about Kentucky. You mentioned Scott Clark, and we obviously know Kentucky is going to make some other moves recruiting-wise. What do you think, real quick, what do you think is next for them in the recruiting process?
That's a great question, Austin. I think Adim Bona out of is a Turkish big man. He is a 6'10", absolute paint monster. I saw him a ton last year at Prolific Prep. I thought he played really, really well at the Pangos All-American camp this summer, did a really good job in July. Tons of international experience. The Wildcats have gone kind of all in with him. They're going to get him out there for a visit relatively soon. I think he's the guy that you have to assume that he might be next. They've got Cason Wallace out of Texas they're going to be bringing in as well. They've got Derek Lively, a big man, number 2 overall player in the country out of Pennsylvania, out of Westtown High School. So Kentucky is always going to be involved with the top overall guys there are in the country. And Adim Bona, Cason Wallace, and again, Derek Lively, all guys that are high-level guys. I think Bona's the guy that you got to watch really closely as they continue to put this together. Bona, ironically enough, will end up playing Shaedon Sharpe a couple of times this year on the high school level. They played against each other last year. I'll be there for those games. So if you're a Kentucky fan, make sure you give me a follow if you're not already. I'll have a front seat for you out here on the West Coast for those guys.
We'll definitely be watching the next few months for sure, bro. A lot of stuff to unpack, a lot of things to keep an eye on for all the Kentucky fans out there. All right, Jay, well, let's keep moving along, man. Oral Roberts came up. I think they made got another incredible commitment. I think we've seen the impact of Max Asmus, and I think this new commitment they've gotten from Cam Embry, I think it's going to be one that in the next couple of years will be just as impactful. And you always talk about those mid-major guys and how come March, JY, we see what we knew when we saw these players play in the grassroots stage, man. Talk to us about Cam Embry and his decision to commit to Oral Roberts.
Okay, let's agree to this. You cannot call him a sleeper when March Madness comes around, okay? Well, let's squash that. He picked a program where he can play right away. He picked a program where he can thrive. Coach Paul Mills and his staff, Russell Spring was at almost all the 3D Empire games that there was this summer. And I'm not a I told you so kind of guy. But when college coaches go, hey, man, I'm looking for a guy that can go get a bucket. I told you to go recruit this dude. The guy's an absolute killer. Yeah, and I would argue, and again, I'm not in Texas. I'm not there all the time. But I would argue in a state like Texas, one of the top 3 states in the entire nation when it comes to producing basketball talent. Cam Embry out of Houston, Texas is one of the top 20 players there is in the Lone Star State. Oral Roberts came in there and snagged themselves a guy that they can keep that level of basketball at a high level because he will absolutely rip your heart out in March. In fact, so much so that they're going to play a team like Kentucky. They're going to play a team like a Blue Blood in the tournament. And Cam Embry's faced these guys, looked them all square in the eye, and gave them buckets. Okay?
Put your money where your mouth is. I'm with it, JY. I'm with it, brother.
Like, to me, I think it's probably when signing day comes around in November, we're going to have probably our 20 most important non-major, if we want to call it that, signees. Cam Embry may be the number 1 guy on that list.
Nah, absolutely, without question. If you watch Cam play this summer, you can understand JY's passion and enthusiasm. This kid can flat out go. He was a vital piece on a 3D Empire team that was clearly one of the best travel ball programs, period. Regardless of circuit, however you want to play it, this kid lived up to expectations. Oral Roberts came out and got a commitment. We can almost say armed robbery by getting this kid because he is the real deal, man. Congrats to Oral Roberts. Congrats to Cam. Best of luck, man. We're going to be watching you in the future, brother.
It's interesting, Austin. I talked to Sean Ward, the head coach and program director for 3D Empire in Vegas at the beginning of August. And I said, man, like one thing I love about what you guys did, Sean, is you played anybody, anywhere, anytime.
Yeah.
And as an independent program, you can go do that. You don't have to be locked into a type of circuit. Like he played every shoe circuit the guys that were. Obviously, they were the number 1 independent team in the country, as you mentioned. They won the event that we had down in Orlando, the Grassroots Basketball Association Championship. And Cam Embry has been able to face all of these guys, and 3D Empire for that matter, all their guys have. He's battle tested, and I think that's the value that you get with an independent program.
Right.
And clearly Oral Roberts and programs like them know the value of getting a guy that doesn't play for a shoe circuit team.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most dialogue items there is in grassroots basketball is the diversity of competition that you can play as an independent program and how that develops your players into being a winner, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's that soundbite? I can't remember what was it. Was it Denny Green no, it was Mike Singletary. I want winners.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, I love that.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, you play to win the game. All those sound bites that you hear, you can do that as an independent program, probably better than any other places you can do. Soapbox over, I got to get one per episode. That was it. But yeah, Cam Embry to Oral Roberts, congrats to you, Cam. Tremendous pickup for them. And congrats to Oral Roberts coaching staff.
Absolutely.
Like they got to be a little nervous when guys like me and you are like on these shows, like, go recruit this dude. And they're like, no, don't recruit him. I want to get him. So congrats to them for staying the course and doing a great job of landing really significant pickup.
No doubt about it. Yeah, man. Double salute to Oral Roberts for sure. We'll be catching some games, man, in 2022. I got to see young fella Cam. He can flat out go. Yeah. All right, let's keep moving, JY. Here we go. Next person up, we've got Andrew Akushe, who's headed to Rice. And I enjoy getting the chance to see Andrew play with a Florida Pro. And I believe, JY, he came in later on in the season.
No.
He was there the whole time. Wow.
He was there the whole time. So, that Florida Pro roster had a lot of evolution over the course of the year, right? You had the Thompson twins. That started the season with such a bang. They were trending. The Hendricks twins are going to Central Florida, have their moments. Really, I think Taylor Hendricks is probably the most underrated guy there is in the top 100 nationally, like an absolute steal of a pickup for them. But here you had Andrew Akushe, 6'9", 6'10". I remember watching him, and like he hit like 1-3 back in March at our grassroots or at our what event was it? The HoopSeen tip-off. And I remember talking to Marcus McGann, like, hey, who was the big fella out there that came in there and like knocked down a three, like really good? He's like, oh yeah, like I think he's in time going to be a guy that you're going to want to watch. Yeah. To me, the late bloomer or the guy that can develop going into a senior year, that can develop later into college, particularly big men with size that can shoot. We've seen that so many times. I'm not calling him Kai Jones, who played at Texas that was drafted by the Hornets. That's not what I'm saying. But you have to watch big men that are coming on into their senior year, what type of player they can become, particularly now big men that can shoot. Yeah. And I think you get that with Andrew, and is going to a program with Rice, that does a really nice job of finding guys like that. So if you get a high academic guy that has a really unique skill set with some size, you got to keep your eyes on that one. And again, Florida Pro, congrats to them for developing and really helping another guy off that program. I think that's 5 guys now that have picked now you got to say, a post-high school option
opportunity.
Yeah, and they've got more guys coming too. They're obviously their program that was stacked and really one of the number one independent or one of the top independent teams in the country. Another one off the board. So congrats to Andrew.
Absolutely. I think it's also too, man, we just acknowledge the fact that Florida Pro was another independent team, stuck with us through the whole season. They came in, developed their ball players. Their ball players got opportunities to play at the next level. It happens. And again, you talk about being an independent ball club, JY, they had the opportunity to match up with some of these teams in settings that wouldn't possibly be allowed at specific shoe stops. So when you battle, man, and you put yourself on the market like that, when you find the right team and the right fit for you, grassroots, you want to find the right team and fit for you to go to college. And I think Andrew did that. I think he's going to be a good pickup for Rice, man. I do.
Yeah. I love this segment of Just a Minute, by the way.
Got to.
And there's so many guys that commit, and I do like that we get a chance to kind of highlight some guys. And I'm a big believer in fit. And so if you pick a place that you can fit, whether it's fit on the court or fit, socially and academically, that's the whole beauty of recruiting.
Yeah, in section 2, JY, like you said, man, like you talk about, I told you so. Yeah. These are players, we're not being biased. These are players that are going to notable schools, but we have the chance to watch them play. And I think that's even more pretty awesome or fulfilling, however you want to say it, that we're telling coaches about players and they're the players that they're getting, rightfully so. And you just see the impact they've been able to make on their respective teams. We get to see them live, and so to see them get off the board, man, that's awesome.
No question about it.
That is pretty awesome. Okay, so over the past few weeks, JY, we have been diving into some rankings, man. And I know everybody loves rankings, JY. They want to talk and get into them. So man. Let's keep going with it. Let's talk combo guards for this week in the class of 2022. You got your top 5 list, JY, and I'll read that out for everyone out there. Number 1 is Amari Bailey. Number 2 is Arterio Morris. Number 3 is Anthony Black. Number 4 is Scott Clark. And number 5 is Jazion Gortman. And with the completion of that top 5 list, JY, I want to get your analysis and breakdown on each player. So we'll start off with Amari Bailey.
Well, let me back up a little bit. It's interesting about our point guards. We have point guards, combo guards, and shooting guards. It's such a fluid thing where some people are tripping like, oh my God, I can't believe you don't have Amari Bailey.
On Twitter, yeah.
And then like some people, we may have a shooting guard. So like, I think it's all in the eye of the beholder. Obviously high school hoops is very guard heavy. And so I think that's one of the reasons why we create that out is to have combo guards. So if you're seeing it now, like I knew what we were coming up with. I know what we had on the horizon, so I wasn't tripping. But yeah, I mean, Amari Bailey, really to me, we've talked about him before. He's the mystery man in this class. I mean, he could have the most talent of anybody out there in the class. Athletically, dynamic, Sierra Canyon kid, big social media presence, a guy that whose stardom, if you will, is maybe bigger than the game right now, and he's going to go to UCLA, a program that I don't want to be hyperbolic, but maybe Russell Westbrook, when he committed to UCLA, I don't even know if we had him in our top 100 when I was at Rivals. So I mean, that was a significant pickup for Ben Allen and then back then. But I think Amari Bailey has that kind of potential within UCLA. Now he and Kevin Love developed and did a great, ton of great stuff, got multiple Final Fours. Amari Bailey, there's no denying the guy's an absolute freak of a talent and a significant player for Mick Cronin, who's always had just an absolute dog in the backcourt. So we don't need to go too much into that, but dynamic guy, a no-brainer guy for our top overall combo guard spot. The number 2 and number 3 is what's interesting. Okay. We have 2 Texas guys, 2 Dallas guys, where honestly, like it depends on the day that you see him. Right. Again, I'm not a hype guy. Like, me, like I don't think I'm trying to keep it as real as I can. So when I see Arterio Morris, sometimes there are some moments that I flash back to watching an independent team named Ferrari out of Chicago with a young kid named D Rose. Okay. Like the speed, the dynamic ability to get up and down the floor, the dynamic ability when he leaves the floor, like what can happen. Arterio Morris has that type of game where the wow factor is off the charts. Okay, we have him, I think, in our top 12, maybe, I think it is. In our national rankings, our number 2 overall combo guard is going to Texas. I think about Chris Beard and the way that they play. I think Morris is going to come in there and do some absolutely amazing things for them, where I actually get more excited about him from January until April of his freshman year, as opposed to what I see now. Okay, I saw a lot of, does that make sense? Where I think the long-term projection of what he can become is why I have him number 2 overall, as opposed to a guy like Anthony Black, who we, just can't say enough great things about. I think it goes a little bit more to maybe the upside. But if there was a line, it is a microscopic line between Arterio Morris and Anthony Black. I think both of those guys are absolutely dynamic. We'll talk a little bit more about Anthony Black here, but Cam Embry's teammate with 3D Empire. To me, he's 6'5", 6'6". He's got football toughness. I think he's probably one of the most dynamic passers there is in the game. And so for me, for my personal grading, your ability to pass tells me a lot about your ability to play the game of basketball. And I think he's one of the most dynamic passers we have in the game. There's so much upside to him that an NBA scout friend of mine is like, bro, what's the difference between him and Cade Cunningham other than some physicality? I think about that a lot. That little angel sits on my shoulder, and every time I watch Anthony Black, I hear that little voice, what's the difference between him and Cade? I'm like, that's a great question. That's a great question. So if that's the case, then maybe we're wrong. Maybe we need to move Anthony Black to number 1 overall.
Put him in number 1, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's that upside there at the top of this group is really, really impressive. I think those 3 guys are really super interesting guys. I want to see more from Amari Bailey. I just haven't seen him enough. Yeah. I don't think anybody's really seen him a lot. So I'm excited to see him coming up in this grassroots season, which may dictate some different things. We talked about him at the beginning of the show. Sky Clark, number 4, is going to Kentucky. an absolute bucket getter, an absolute, dynamic guy. Again, we haven't seen a lot of him lately, but we'll see a ton of him down at IMG. We'll see him on ESPN. We'll see him at some of the big national events. We'll see him at City of Palms. We'll see him at those types of platforms, Hall of Fame, a guy that can fill it up. And we've seen so many elite level point producers play for Kentucky, and John Calipari. He's in the lineage as well. And then lastly, we got Jazion Gortman, a guy that we've seen a ton at HoopSeen over the years with his dad's team that was at PCH Knight Riders. He also plays the Knight Riders in the EYBL circuit. But like for you, like you've seen him a ton. What is, well, two things. People are like, well, why are you ranking guys going to overtime? Well, they're still part of that graduating class, if you will. Yeah, and they're still going to be, if you look at it from an NBA point of view, like they're inbound, they're still going to be part of that class. That's why we keep them in there. But like for Gortman, like what makes him so dynamic in your opinion?
Well, I think the biggest thing I've seen off rip, man, is his impressive ability in transition. I think when he gets out on the break, you never know what can happen. Solid ball handler. You see the athleticism. You've seen plenty of dunks from overtime from our guys at OST 22/7. You see the kind of playmaker he is and the craftiness he has involved in his hands. And, he made the transition from PCH to then going Knight Riders, and it was his name, Jazion Gortman. I want to comment on something real quick, though, Jay, that you just mentioned about the whole ranking guys, even though they're going to play with different leagues like OTE. But OTE is playing prep schools and post grad teams. Like they're playing some schools, cool prep schools. So competition wise, if you're matched up against the same size, against some of the same kids in your grade level, I'm with you, Jay. Well, I mean, why not? Mention some of these guys. They're going to be playing at IMG if they are going to be playing Montverde. So
so go to hoopseen.com right now. Actually, I've got a story on the site that I've really broke it down. Like, what is OT? Who are they playing? Who's on the team? Who's coaching them? Yeah. Some interesting facts that I found out from teams they're trying to schedule. Some thoughts on from some NBA guys. So I put a lot of time into it. Go read it. I think it can help educate a little bit more. I think there's a lot of hate out there on it because it's different. Like, let me go off again. Maybe I have two tangents in me on this show, but like,
it's all good, bro.
I'm a players' rights guy. Mm-hmm. I think players deserve every penny that they deserve because of the gift they've been given. I am pro GoPro.
Get your money.
I'll always get your money. Right. Exactly. Like I am that guy. It's such a small window, so I have no problem with it at all. I think there's a lot of built-in biases to the way it's always been done, and I don't ride with that thought. So I'm going to always have those guys in our rankings. In fact, we've had dialogues within our own content staff, like, why are we keeping those guys in there? They're not going to be. I disagree. If you're playing at a level, they need to be included in that group because they're still part of that. We have to know how to evolve as the game evolves. And I think keeping those guys in there is really important.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm a big football guy. I love football. I can't wait for my Cowboys to play on opening night.
Oh, what? Yo, I know you didn't say that on air, man.
Hey, man, listen, I grew up in Dallas, so I have like a legit fan.
Cowboys?
Bro, it's a blessing and a curse, man. Last time we won a Super Bowl, so I said was when I was in high school there in Dallas. Okay? What are you going to come to me and be a Falcons guy?
Absolutely.
What foundation you got to stand on, bro?
Hey. It's better than being a Cowboys fan, man.
I would assume you would be a Cowboys fan on Thursday night when they're playing Tom Brady. Everybody in Atlanta hates Tom Brady.
Well, okay.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah, but it's Tom Brady. You lose to the GOAT. Like, hey, it's not some random quarterback. You know what I mean? So
I mean, if I could have a second team, obviously the Falcons are my second team because now I've got all those years. But anyways, I'm excited. Let me get back to my point. I'm watching all these high level, and we're all doing fantasy football drafts. I think Jazion Gortman could be an absolute elite wideout in the NFL.
No, that's why I made my point about transition. Like he's like a blur, bro. Like
every great wideout in the NFL was a great hooper.
Yeah.
Like AJ Green is one of the best hoopers I've ever seen. Like he's a freak. Calvin Johnson's a freak. You know what I mean? Like, you don't even think Justin Jefferson wasn't an unbelievable hooper? Guarantee it he was.
Yeah.
Try to stop Mike Evans or Keenan Allen with those hands. Keenan Allen's got a sponsors travel team, basketball team. Anyways, I think Jazion Gortman, man. Like, we've seen a lot of guys. We saw Mark Vitale just signed with the Seahawks from Baylor.
On the practice squad.
We see a lot of guys like Jimmy Graham. I covered him at ABC camp back in the day.
That's crazy.
The guy was like an ACC starter for Miami. I mean, you see a lot with tight ends, but Jason Gortman, man, if, hey, listen, if OTE doesn't work out, then put that helmet on, put a mouthpiece in.
Get to work.
Go down the road and talk to Arthur Blank, man.
Hey, right here at the crib.
Anyways, I love stuff like that. I love transitional prospects.
Man, Jason's got the talent for it and the athleticism for sure, man. Shout out to the dad who ran with us this summer. Big Gore. All right, here we go. So look, let's keep it moving, JY. Here we go. My favorite, well, I don't want to say my favorite segment because then that means I'm not excited about the other ones. However, Visitor of the Weekend. We have that weekly segment here on the podcast, man, and it's a great one that allows us to go in detail of the prospect or player who is making a key visit to a corresponding school.
Yeah.
This weekend, we've got Mr. Anthony Black, who is headed to Athens for a visit down to UGA. JY, talk to us, man. What you think this means for Anthony heading down to go between?
This is significant. I should have pulled this up. I want to see who is Georgia playing this weekend for.
I think, they had the heavy game. I think it's like, is it? Let me see. Let me see.
As you're looking that up, let me just kind of go. The significance of Anthony Black, a non-Southeastern conference, well, I guess Dallas is.
There you go.
They're playing UAB. Okay, so Georgia, obviously their win over Clemson. Fans are so excited to get back to Athens and watch game. Like, it's going to be bananas out there. We know how game days are. Pardon me. We know how game days are out there in Athens, but to have the significance of a guy like Anthony Black, a non-Bible Belt Southern prospect, high-level 5-star guy coming to town for a visit is significant. I was standing with Tom Crean at the Best of South, and he was out there recruiting other players. And that's when he was like, yo, I got to recruit this dude.
And he did.
The body of work for the players that he's had at that position, it speaks for itself. Obviously, we saw Ant-Man, and I know Tom and his staff are really leaning into that. They've got some staff additions where they're recruiting Texas a lot more now. And I think now, too, with, the Big 12 losing Texas and Oklahoma, I know it's down the road. That probably won't impact this class. But, when Texas A&M joined the SEC, it changed the dynamic. We saw Severe Wheeler go join Georgia and played for them and had a dynamic career before he transferred out. They're getting into the state of Texas and recruiting more. So to have a guy like Anthony Black going to visit Georgia, that's significant. Yeah. There are other options I think that we consider for our visitor of the week, but to have a guy like Anthony Black go visit a program like Georgia, Anthony's approach was very similar to Ant-Man, where Ant-Man always kind of wanted to do his own thing and kind of dance to his own beat. Obviously, being an independent program guy, I think he's going to be an all-American type of player. It's the same approach, and I like that guys are considering non-traditional blue bloods, and I don't mean that as a slight to Georgia basketball, but we don't see that very often where high-level 5-star guys out of the region going to visit Georgia basketball. That's a significant visit because he's looking at Baylor. He's looking at he's looking at Baylor, Duke, Gonzaga, Kansas, Oklahoma State. So like these other programs, Georgia's in the mix. That's why I want to make him our visitor of the weekend for that matter alone.
No, that's pretty awesome, man. And again, this speaks to not only Anthony as a player kind of moving to the beat of his own drum, but hey, what Tom Crean has been able to do in the past. And you can see the mold. Anthony, he's been able to be at 6'5", almost 6'6". You've seen him playmaker. You talked about his passing. You talked about the offensive versatility in his skill set and what he can do to develop under a coach like Tom Crean. Will be interesting to see if he does ultimately go in there. But I think he's going to have a blast in Athens, man.
How can you not? How can you not?
And then, coming off that big Clemson win, it's the first game. And I think, aren't they going like to full capacity? Like, it's going to be crazy, man. That weekend's going to be crazy for him.
Yeah, it's going to be nuts. It's going to be nuts. Make sure you check out HoopSeen Fast Break Friday, every Friday morning. I've got a good, exhaustive list of who's visiting where. Our staff does a tremendous job of digging out that information from players. Obviously Anthony's a big one. We got tons of other visitors all over the country that we'll certainly spotlight. And you never know. I mean, that may be our campus of the weekend, but there's a couple other things that I think are happening that are coming together this week that you're going to want to see who's visiting where. So make sure you come by Friday morning and check that out.
Yes, sir, man. Again, everyone, make sure you stay in tune to hoopseen.com. Like JY said, a ton of news always on the site. Also, parents, players, coaches, we are in the midst of preview camp season. All right. So make sure you're getting registered. Hoopseen.com/events. That'll take care of everything you need to be able to register for our corresponding camps. We got a loaded season. I'm excited. JY's excited. Man.
Hey, listen, we got our first one this weekend. One this weekend, our next gen camp, it's the middle school camp. Yep. We got our guy, Daryl LeBerry, who does such a great job for us. We're going to have Jannard Hartley going to be there as well for us to being on staff. Yep. Man, I can't wait for that to get going. I can't wait to see who the next gen is as we get those guys on the platform. First ever elite middle school camp that we've ran under the preview camp platform. We've had other middle school camps before, but the next gen elite preview, man, I'm super fired up for that. Good opportunity for parents too to get in there and understand what the process is moving forward for their young men in the next couple of years.
Yes, sir. All right, everyone. Hey, thanks for tuning in to episode number 20. This is the Just a Minute Podcast, and I'm your HoopSeen host. Got tongue-tied that time. Austin Smith. My brother that always joins with me every week is none other than our editor-in-chief here at HoopSeen.com, man, my guy, the OG in the game, Mr. Justin Young. As always, man, thank y'all for tuning in and hanging out with us. We look forward to seeing you all each week. As always, stay tuned to the latest and greatest exclusively on HoopSeen.com.